There's growing backlash over President Trump failing to publicly press Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte over human rights violations during his trip. The Philippine leader has faced harsh criticism for launching a bloody drug war in his country over the past year. Thousands of people have been killed in the brutal crackdown. CBS News State Department reporter Kylie Atwood traveled to Manila earlier this year to report on the situation on the ground.
Almost 3 in the morning here in Manila, and we're seeing the results of Duterte's war on drugs and his pledge to slaughter all drug users. Police are responding to the murder of a drug user, and we're going to go see the scene.
When there's something happening here, then you stay here to watch them who is dead.
They're waiting here to see who died,
Yeah.
who was killed.
The man was an alleged drug user. They said they shot him in self-defense. It was one of 9 killings across Manila that night. Former police officers say when Duterte was mayor of Davao City, he paid death squads to kill both drug dealers and users. Several local residents introduce us to a hitman. He says this cash for murder practice continues.
Kasi dati, patago-tago lang yung nag-uumpisa pa lang ako na pagpatay. Pero ngayon, mas malakas na yung loob ko na may backup kang pulis, tapos utos pa na sa taas, kaya hindi ka na matatakot na pumatay.
We didn't know it, but he came to the interview with a gun in his satchel.
What's in your bag?
That is gun.
It's engraved, the enforcer. For every murder with that gun, he says the police pay him and his partner $400.
So it's the government paying you?
Yes, ma'am.
From Duterte?
This is from the president.
Leonardo Carlos is the spokesperson for the Philippine National Police. Despite Duterte's public comments endorsing the killing of drug users, Carlos says the police follow the rule of law and they are not hiring hitmen.
People out in the communities here say that there are rogue hitmen who are killing drug users and they're backed by the police. What do you say to that?
Okay, these are all allegations. They have to prove that. We are conducting motu proprio investigation when there is a death.
On the whole, do you think that this effort has been successful?
Have we reduced the number of drug personalities or drug users and lessened the demand? Have we accomplished our target? Yes, we did.
We embedded with the Quezon City Police outside of Manila on a daily anti-drug operation, going house to house rounding up drug users.
We are going to convince them to surrender.
Fearful faces lined the streets as the police shuffled through. At our third stop, a child cried as the police took away her father for drug testing. This is how far Duterte's drug war reaches. The man had not been caught with drugs. He was on a list of suspected users created by local community leaders. Minutes later, the police announced their round was done. It appeared to us the operation was cut short because they didn't want us to see much more of the turmoil that follows their raids.
You said we were going to go to 20 houses. We only went to 4.
When does this end?
We want to end it by having no demand and no supply in the country. If that's reached, that's 100%.
Kylie Atwood, CBS News, Manila.
CBS News State Department reporter Kylie Atwood joins me now to talk a little bit more about her reporting really interesting stuff. Kylie, we have heard about this drug war and the thousands of people killed, but it's really something to see the video on the ground. We saw in that piece there, you're starting to sort of argue with the police officers because you had a plan. They agreed to that you were going to go out with them during the day as they picked up drug users or whatever. You expected to go to 20 houses, then they cut it short. What happened? Why did they cut it short?
So as we were, going house to house, the whole thing felt very calm, considering what they're doing. They're going to these homes without proof, saying to these folks, we're going to take you in for drug testing so that you can turn yourself in as a drug user. Then they're added to a list of government-identified drug users. Allegations are that a lot of those people later get killed. I talked to folks who were on that list and got killed. So, for this to be going down, for it to be a calm situation, felt weird to me. It definitely felt like it was a curated process that we were moving through.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we get to the home that's in the piece where the small child is wailing. I mean, she is so upset. And as a journalist, that's when you see the horror that is actually being inflicted on these communities. And so we got that footage, and minutes later they told us it was over. And I was frustrated because the agreement was that we were going to go to 20 houses. We were embedding with them for the day. We were going to see, what these operations looked like from start to finish. And with allegations that the police are carrying out extrajudicial killings and that they are the ones that are kind of allowing this drug war to go on, it was important to hold them accountable.
You think they saw that child crying, that child wasn't going according to the script?
Exactly.
Then, right?
They can't control every child, right?
Right. Yeah, of course. Had you been able to talk to other people and ask them what that process typically is like?
Yeah, we had seen some photos on the ground of, families crying as their family members were taken away. It's a pretty horrific, awful process to have to go through, and that's not what we had been seeing until that child broke down.
You also spoke to a guy who was a part of these sort of hit squads. He's not part of the police. He said the police actually pay him to kill people. Let's play a little bit of that.
Great. Why did you decide to talk to us?
Para may bahagi ko naman yung nalalaman ko. Ayoko nga sana magpa-interview eh. So lang para makatulong na rin sa iba. Kasi nakakonsensya na rin na pumatay ka na pumatay. I'm worried very much because the life of people is very short only.
But you're making their lives shorter. You're killing them.
Yes, ma'am. Pinapaikli ko yung buhay nila dahil sa pera na yun na pagbayad sa amin.
Why couldn't you do something else?
Kasi baka pag tumiwalag ka, ikaw rin pagbalingan.
Hitman with a conscience?
That's what he's telling us.
Right. He said he gets $400 to kill people.
He gets $400 to kill people. He told us he'd killed 50 people in the last year. So this is a man who is a security guard by day. He has a few children under the age of 10. He's 40 years old, and he's gotten caught up in this cycle because what was incredible about what he told us is that he can't get out. This is so savage, so intense, that even the people who are carrying out the killings feel that if they try and leave, the policemen are going to come after them.
Right.
And that was incredible to me because you're hearing, these awful stories about the people who are the victims, the families. They're really upset. They're deeply affected. As a journalist, you're deeply affected. I'm scared to sit down there and talk to this guy. He has his gun with him. But at the same time, he told us that doing that interview was harder than killing people.
Right.
And that was incredible.
Yeah, so in a way, he's sort of a victim of this entire sort of machinery that's at work here, right?
Exactly.
But there are people operating outside of it. And you interviewed a priest or a man who just runs a church who has really gone out of his way to make it a safe place for the victims of this drug war. Tell me about him.
So his name was Father Gilbert Bellina. He's an incredible guy. And basically, his church has become a refuge for these children, these grandmothers, these wives, everyone who has lost someone in this drug war. And so we went there. It was a Saturday morning. They had about 30 children going through art therapy. And they had lost either one or both parents in this drug war. And we walked around the community with Father Bellina afterwards. And, he's pointing out there was someone who was shot here, there was someone who was shot there. And I said to him, I was like, you're explaining this as if you're describing a child falling off their bike.
Right.
Just yesterday this happened. I mean, it was very nonchalant.
Yeah.
And it demonstrated that these killings have become a fabric of the society.
Right.
And there's not really the horror and, the devastation that you would expect. I only had about 2 people cry to me talking about this.
We're talking about
but he's supporting them.
Thousands of people, many of them young men. So you point out about, women or children and grandmothers. So you're taking away fathers, sons. I would presume often these are men who may be the backbone of the family, the primary breadwinners in the family. You're removing them.
Completely. Right. And so I met one woman who has 3 children. She's relying on her in-laws after a hitman killed her husband, who was an alleged drug user, and her 5-year-old son. came to the room, shot through the door, and also killed her son. And so she's not only reeling with the realities that she has to try and figure out how to support her family, but also the emotional toll that takes.
Of course, of course. So we know the president was in the Philippines. He did not ask or criticize President Duterte about this, about the alleged human rights violations. What sort of impact do you think that had? What sort of message do you think was sent by that?
Yeah, so after their meeting, the White House said that human rights came up briefly. But at the same time, they say that President Trump has a rapport with Duterte. We saw Trump earlier this year congratulate Duterte for this drug war in a phone call. So he's not publicly coming out and saying that this is something that the U.S. is opposed to.
Yeah.
And that really questions the authenticity of America being the global defender of human rights. Other countries are going to say, well, if the president isn't going to call out what's happening here, and it's been reported by Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, other foreign leaders have also condemned it, then where is the U.S. going to stand up for human rights? And so it's really a problem for America's global image, but it's also really sad for the people on the ground who don't feel that they have a voice and could potentially be helped by the U.S. in this situation.
But here's the thing, Duterte is still very popular in his own country, correct?
He is, yeah. He has approval ratings, that have basically danced around 80% for the past year, but we saw them drop 18% in one poll recently. So that demonstrates that there is sort of a sentiment of frustration. This drug war has been going on for over a year now. And so potentially people are less likely to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's trying to fight drugs and, crime, and they might be turning against him. So we'll see if there are any further changes that come as a result of that.
Kylie Atwood, great reporting. Thank you so much.